Hey there, let's talk about the worst specs in the game right now. I'm sure you loved the spec at one time and felt bad for playing it. Or maybe you just didn't care. Or maybe you were playing it for fun, which is the topic of today's video. I will tell you which I think are the worst specs in the game right now, why they are so bad, and how to actually play them because one of them has become my favorite alt at the moment. First, I'm sure everyone has their opinions on which spec sucks more, and maybe you won't agree with me on this one. You can let me know in the comment section down below. The specs we will talk about today are Subtlety Rogue, Survival Hunter, and Augmentation Evoker. There are a few reasons why I think these are the worst right now, and that's only because by worst standards, this is one of the best seasons in terms of balance. These specs are clearing keys 2 to 3 levels below the top and doing fairly decent DPS, while in the raids there are specs way worse at damage output that are either S or A tier in dungeons, so it's never really clear what exactly can be classified as worse. So I had to, take a shot in the dark at this one. So if your friend is telling you your spec is bad, whether it's these three or something else, tell that friend to watch this video or, do some research of his own. Yet still, these specs are bad because 1, they don't do the most damage in their respective niche, 2, they have at least one spec counterpart in their class that's at least A tier in terms of results and obviously better, and 3, these are by far the least played specs in the game across raids and dungeons. We picked these 3 also because their performance was bottom when we started testing and just to prove that nothing is ever really bad, and while by the time of recording this video, Aug and Subtlety climb very high in Mythic Plus, while Survival keeps destroying more DPSers overall but kinda sits at the bottom of the list. With that out of the way, how do you play these? Not a guide, but we'll give you some gearing directions, talents, and a simple rotation to start you off. First, my new favorite alt, Subtlety Rogue. By the way, the gameplay with all of these is pretty low since I'm missing some gear and tier sets and my arm lately, so couldn't get them juiced up enough in time for the video. But trust, for the stats and general gearing, you want to focus on mastery and versatility, so that means jewelry enchants and whatever off-tier slot you can afford. Your best trinkets will be House of Cards and Pacemaker, depending on how high you are already pushing content. You can also just get these with dinars. I'll give you some talents for keys and raids as well. Your Mythic Plus build will be this, playing Trickster for now, of course, while the raid build will be this, still playing Trickster. But both of them can be found in the description below, so you can just copy and import the code in the game. The rotation will be fairly similar across the board. You are a burst DPSer that exists inside of your cooldowns and you have your cooldowns very often, with your opener being your cooldown rotation as well. You start in Stealth with a Shadow Strike into Flagellation directly into Rupture. If you are in AoE, you have an extra step where you Shuriken Storm and Rupture another target to spread the bleed. Shadow Dance and Symbols of Death at the same time. Backstab immediately. Pop Shadow Blades, and Cold Blood with Secret Technique. Shadow Strike into Eviscerate for the remaining duration of your cooldowns, being careful not to overcap combo points. When fighting 7 or more targets, you replace Eviscerate with Black Powder. There is plenty to optimize with sub, and for that you can check a guide or two. We recommend the Wowhead one. But I will give you some tips to remember. You want to use Cold Blood only with Secret Technique. You can macro them together, but Cold Blood can be optimized even more. Always use Shadow Dance with Symbols of Death together since it's a simple and reliable way to pair them up before you get deeper into the spec and min-max them more. And lastly, when in Shadow Dance, every ability will give you 1 stack of Dance Macabre, which is a damage buff, but only once, meaning you want to use as many different builders as you can to get a few more, but not like Shuriken Storm and single target. You don't want that much optimization. It's really hard to make sub really shine when both its counterparts are S tier level DPS specs in Mythic Plus, and adding to the fact that sub started really poorly this season and wasn't any better last season kind of gives it a rough patch. Community perception can suck, but remember, you can always tell them to keep sucking it by cranking your DPS to max. Similarly, Survival Hunter competes only with marksmanship this time, but add to it a seemingly undying stigma people have for it, either because of some jaded "survival used to be arranged when I liked it" sentiment, or because it's never really meta unless it's broken, and then everyone plays it for 2 months only to forget it exists for 2 expansions. In any case, it cranks, especially when geared with Mastery and Haste for raids or Mastery Crit for dungeons. Crit and Haste are fairly close together anyway, so don't worry too much about it. Get the Signet of the Priory and Seaphorium Pacemaker as your best in slot trinkets. Yeah, despite Mastery being your best stat, House of Cards isn't as great since you are running a 1-minute Coordinated Assault on both builds, making it never really properly align with the trinket. Speaking of builds, your Mythic Plus talents will generally be these, with Sentinel as a focus. You'll end up with the most amount of AoE damage output as you can, while the raid will favor Pack Leader for an increase in single target damage potential, while the rotation will be mostly similar. The Sentinel M plus AoE build starts with your Hunter's Mark on the target, Wildfire Bomb next, Butchery, Bomb again, Coordinated Assault into another bomb, and then Fury of the Eagle. Once you opened on your target, you want to prioritize Wildfire Bomb over everything else, since a lot of stuff in your kit gives you either charges or reduce its cooldown by a lot. Raptor Strike to consume your tier set proc, Butchery next, Coordinated Assault once you depleted your bomb charges, Fury of the Eagle with a tip of the spear charge, Kill Command without capping on focus, Explosive Shot, Bomb here again if you have a tip of the spear stack and you aren't close to capping charges, since that was the earlier most important thing to do. Raptor Strike last on targets with Serpent Sting to spread it around. The Pack Leader rotation single target starts with the same Hunter's Mark. Wildfire Bomb into Mongoose Bite this time, Coordinated Assault next, Kill Command, Spearhead, Flanking Strike, followed by the normal priority rotation that sees Kill Command as the most important ability if it will proc a beast from the hero talents. Spearhead next if you just used Coordinated Assault, Flanking Strike with a tip of the spear stack, Mongoose Bite to apply Serpent Sting, Mongoose Bite next to consume the tier set proc, but make sure you have a tip of the spear stack for it as well. Only after this you look to pop Coordinated Assault. Bomb next, Mongoose Bite if your Pack Leader beasts are close to coming off cooldown, and only use Kill Command if you are out of focus without capping it. Mongoose Bite simple if you just have nothing left to do, and Explosive Shot if you are out of focus entirely and really don't have anything else to do. And now we finally get to the dark horse of the video, which is Augmentation. For those unaware, yes, it is back, but not like it used to. It's not better than Devastation, and really the only reason to play it is because you want to. You'll do fine damage-wise, but since it's been hammered down this season, people have little hope for it. It's oddly fun though, and with the stigma around it, you have a good chance to prove people wrong. For gearing, you want haste and crit right now, which I believe is because your personal damage actually matters more, and your tier set proc does actually some good damage on its own. For the trinkets, use Moxie Jug everywhere, with House of Cards in the raid and Blazicon Wax in dungeons. The talent builds are fairly similar, both playing Scale Commander. You want your raid build to look like this, which is kind of cool because this is, I think, the first time since the spec came out that you play Time Skip as an active ability as opposed to it being passive. It makes the rotation a bit more fun and engaging. Your M plus build is this, with slight differences like the faster kick and the threat reduction talent, which might become less useful after the tank threat buff. The rotation is the same in both single target and AoE, whether it's raids or dungeons. You want to start by putting Blistering Scales on the tank and precast Living Flame. Use Prescience on your first buff target and the second on your second buff target. Cast Ebon Might followed by Tip of the Scales for a max rank Fire Breath right after. Breath of Eons next, Eruption to consume Essence, cast a rank 1 Upheaval, Time Skip here, spam Eruption until you are out of essences, Living Flame as a filler, and once you're outside of your opener, your most important thing to do is to keep up Prescience on your DPS friends and Blistering Scales on the tank. Use Ebon Might on cooldown ideally, and same thing with Tip of the Scales, which will always be used for Fire Breath. Breath of Eons ideally timed with your group's DPS cooldowns in Raid or on cooldown in Mythic Plus. Use Eruption if you are capped on essences. Upheaval is the next most important spell to cast. Channel Time Skip here if Fire Breath and Upheaval are on cooldown. Eruption when Ebon Might is up. Living Flame as a filler or Azure Strike when movement is needed. A few things I found useful as a non-augmentation player is that it can be a bit much to micromanage buffing the right person when you start up just playing the spec. Make sure you use sense power. This should give you a visual cue when people pop their cooldown so you know when it's go time. Firing them off cooldown is likely still better than holding onto them for too long and potentially missing casts. Prescience and scales have smart targeting, so you don't need to manually put them yourself. If you want to be useful, this is one spec you cannot just YOLO for fun. I mean, you can, sure, it's a game, but it would be equivalent to popping your DPS cooldowns when everything is dead. So yeah, it's YOLO and fun, but you aren't really doing anything. So, just a thought. A better thought, though, is to see the actual meta in M+, and how these three stooges are doing way better than last you checked. Well, two of them at least, anyway.